This is culturally inappropriate.
In my off time, I get high and ride line bikes around the city. I don't know when this hobby of mine started, but I love doing it because Atlanta is built on hills, so sometimes I'm coasting, and yes, on occasion, I do get close to having Grady hospital visits.
Damn, homie.
But that's not the point. The point is, a few days ago, I smoked some hybrid shit, got on a line bike, and rode around Edgewood. But when I did, I got an idea. Earlier that day, I saw a tweet from Newswire about Trump doing yet another 90-day pause for the tariffs he really wants to put on China after Howard Lutnick just came out and said that there were going to be no more pauses. And mid-line bike ride, wind in my face, 93 degrees outside, I thought about these 90-day pauses in relation to the Greenbull versus Shanks scene. You remember it, right? Greenbull tried to dunk on Luffy's victory in Wano, but then Shanks used his 5G Wi-Fi Conqueror's Hockey to stop him in his tracks. This moment became so infamous that Greenbull's nickname is now known as Twerkbull in Agenda Piece, because Shanks' hockey is so powerful that it forced Greenbull to throw it back, just like Groot in Marvel Rivals. So when I was thinking about this in relation to Trump's tariff war, I thought to myself, Trump is Twerkbull. A joke! It's unserious. It doesn't make any sense. But as I was pedaling my bike, my mind started pedaling this thought over and over and over again until it slowly started to click. So I'm here to analyze the Greenbull versus Shanks scene through our current political situation to explain why Trump is Greenbull and how they're both afraid of the new era. By the way, if Oda says this isn't true, why would you take Oda as your canon source? Excuse me for tapping into my agenda piece bag, but I'm of the opinion that Trump and Greenbull are both fraudulent people. Shanks upscale victims, if you will. I'm not gonna act like we have every single detail about Greenbull's life, cause we don't. But I will say, personality-wise, Trump and Greenbull have more similarities than differences. The first time we see Greenbull is post-Wano, and he's very proud, pretentious, and patronizing. He thought he could waltz into Wano, defeat the Straw Hats, and handle everything by himself with impunity. From what we've seen, based on his words and actions, he acts like his power and abilities are above anything most people can conceive. He definitely seems like a power is power kind of guy.
Prominent families often forget a simple truth. I found.
And which truth is that?
Knowledge is power.
Seize him. Cut his throat. Stop. Wait. I've changed my mind. Let him go. Step back 3 paces. Turn around. Close your eyes. Power is power.
And to be honest, he thinks this way because he has a strong devil fruit and is an admiral within the world government system. So it's no wonder why he comes across as such an arrogant person. And Trump is very similar in this regard. He's a man that's extremely arrogant, very verbose, but instead of having a strong devil fruit and being an admiral, he learned how to be a master comm man from Morricone. Became a billionaire, really the only way you can become one, became a US sitting president twice, and has his fan base very upset because he campaigned on releasing the Epstein list and is now refusing to release said list because he's 1000% on it. I'm not definitively saying that Trump is Greenbull to a T, but for this scene in particular, he fits the bill pretty well. If I was going to make a dead set comparison, Trump is legitimately a celestial dragon or Bikori, which is good because either character eventually gets socked in the mouth. What I'm trying to get at is how similar their actions are. You can view Greenbull's actions in Wano as one of many actions Trump has taken in his 6 months of being in the White House. 6 months, by the way. Keep in mind, it's only been 6 months. And these actions range from his current tariff war, the increased ICE budget, and their increased deportation quotas, to gutting social safety nets across the country and emboldening Israel's war crimes and the genocide they're committing against the Palestinian people. Both Trump and Greenbull commit such hasty and cruel actions because they feel they have the political and social power to do whatever they want. They're also fully backed by the establishment, whether it be the US government or the world government. And similar to the SOR organization, the Democratic Party isn't doing enough to stand against these tyrants. Keep in mind, I'm not the only person who feels this way. Don't make me pull the facts over feelings card. I don't know if I can call Greenbull a far-right accelerationist yet, but I can definitely attribute this ideology to Trump and say that Greenbull going to Wano, rushing to try and stop the Straw Hat's momentum to maintain his social and political stance, can be read as Trump rushing to gut and destroy this country and stop anyone that gets in his way, especially if they're just starting to make a difference. But specifically on far-right accelerationism and Trump, let me be clear. Leading up to the 2024 national election, Trump was very clear and direct about what he was going to do. Which is why when people like Andrew Schultz say that this isn't what I voted for, you have no choice but to laugh in their faces. What I inferred from his campaign run and how it differed from his run in 2016 was how each act he wanted to commit was more accelerated than the last. But it made sense, because once you start saying shit like this,
Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed, it'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You gotta get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again.
We don't need observation hockey to see what your plans are for this country. The Southern Poverty Law Center defines accelerationism as the following.
In most scholarly contexts, the term is used to describe a movement separate from the white supremacist variation. Other ideological variants of accelerationism seek to push beyond capitalism by bringing it to its most oppressive and divisive form, prompting a movement to build a just economic system in response. In the case of white supremacists, the accelerationist set sees modern society as irredeemable and believe it should be pushed to collapse so a fascist society built on ethno-nationalism can take its place. What defines white supremacist accelerationists is their belief that violence is the only way to pursue their political goals. To put it most simply, accelerationists embrace terrorism. Accelerationists aren't part of a new movement. They're just an iteration more inclined towards terroristic violence than has existed in recent decades.
That part about accelerationists not being part of a new movement is a key detail to hang on to, because the term itself is a spectrum of tactics and ideologies which work to change existing systems for better or for worse. Meaning, would you rather radically shake up the foundations of this country to fulfill the future liberatory goals of native land back, African American reparations, and the Republic of New Africa? Or would you rather cut all federal funding from PBS because of so-called left-wing bias? All this to say, far-left accelerationism and far-right accelerationism are two different things, and the distinction needs to be made between them because Trump adheres to the latter. This is something that's been said about Trump since his first term, but it's becoming more and more apparent that his policies and positions rely on fear and fascism to operate. In April, for my Law and Society course, I wrote a paper documenting the current political situation on due process law and civil rights in Trump's America. And I'm glad I did because I got a chance to research the effects of his immigration policies through case law. I also talked to a practicing attorney for this, and trust me, I don't want to become one. But that's not the point. The point is, this was written around the time where Trump hit his first 100 days as president. And during this period, I learned more about far-right accelerationism from two sources. The first was the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case, which was a standout case amongst Trump's deportation efforts. People have, and still are, being held in El Salvador's prison system because their president is overtly pro-Trump and can hold people outside of US jurisdiction. He also just abolished presidential term limits. So expect Trump to do something similar before the year is over.
You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed, it'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm not Christian. I love you. Get out. You gotta get out and vote.
Kilmore's case got the attention it did because he fled the US to seek asylum for gang retaliation in El Salvador, but was deported back to El Salvador for claims of him being part of the MS-13 gang, when in reality, he was only accused of this for wearing a Chicago Bulls hat, having tattoos, and being Salvadorian. And I just want to point out how stupid this logic is, because I have tats. I also have a Chicago Bulls hat, but these things shouldn't be used as signifiers to deport people. Nevertheless, claim that someone is part of a gang when they're not, and they're actually seeking asylum for gang retaliation. When court orders to send Kilmore back to the US kept getting ignored, it became a nationwide headline of how Trump was ignoring due process law to pack the courts and enact his fastest agenda on immigration, through using ICE as a Gestapo force to increase deportations. This is especially true with international students, people with student visas and green cards, who are being targeted by ICE and the Trump administration for protesting against the Palestinian genocide being committed by apartheid Israel and other Western actors supplying Israel, like the US and Britain. Mahmoud Khalil, another young Palestinian activist, was sitting in an ICE detention center in Louisiana at the time and was a specific target by the Trump administration to fully conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. Set an example and send other student activists into silence. And it's great that he was released and finally got to be with his family, but it genuinely irks my soul to see this man get on CNN and get asked the "Do you condemn Hamas?" question, as Israel is quite literally starving his people to death.
Do you specifically condemn Hamas, a designated terrorist organization in the United States, not just for their actions on October 7th?
I condemn the killing of all civilians, full stop. But what I don't want to get into is no, I am very clear with condemning all civilians. I'm very straight in my position in that part. But it's disingenuous to ask about condemning Hamas while Palestinians are the ones being starved now by Israel. It's not condemning October 6th, where 260 Palestinians were killed by Israel on before October 7. So I hate this selective outrage of condemnation, because this is not, this wouldn't lead to a constructive conversation. And this is also like what we want to deal with is the root causes of why that happened, and it's in no way anyone can justify the killing of civilians.
Mahmoud, we did ask about, we've talked at length about your views, of course, on the Palestinians, but it is fair to ask you about whether you condemn Hamas, because the Trump administration has claimed that you are a Hamas sympathizer. So it's very important to actually ask that question in this broad conversation.
Yeah, I simply asked and protested the war in Palestine.
When television producers invite us to participate in their programs, they don't seek to interview us for our experiences or analysis or the context we can provide. They don't offer us their condolences the way they do with our Israeli counterparts. They invite us to interrogate us. The former Director General of the Israeli Ministry of Strategic Affairs called it waging a holistic campaign against the other side. Take him out of his comfort zone. Make him be on the defensive. Argumentum ad hominem. You discredit the messenger as a way of discrediting the message. It's long been an Israeli mantra, for our plight cannot be quote-unquote discredited, but our characters can be. They turn us into criminals of thoughts, guilty of our rage and grudges, of our natural responses to brutalization. They test our answers against the viewer's inherent bias. The bombs raining down on the besieged Gaza Strip become secondary, if not entirely irrelevant, to our televised trials. We die a lot as defendants.
That passage is from page 17 of Perfect Victims and the Politics of Appeal, written by Muhammad El-Kurd. And as I'm reading this text, an aspect of far-right accelerationism he notes is dehumanization, and the snipers who contribute to it. from the devil's advocates to the people who contest even the laws of physics in order to pathologize Palestinian resistance. Dehumanization isn't a byproduct or offshoot of far-right accelerationism. It's the entire point. It's the foundation. And it leads me back to why you clicked on this video in the first place. One Piece. Far-right accelerationism is depicted all throughout One Piece and is a common ideology you can see being depicted in most arcs. I've described how I view Greenbull's accelerationist tactics, but the world government, Arlong, Kaido, Big Mom, and Doflamingo exhibit these tactics. Doflamingo in particular excels at this, and it's how he got and maintained political power in the Dressrosa Kingdom. All the antagonists I listed use far-right accelerationism as an ideological framework to achieve power in some way, shape, or form, whether it be staging a coup on a sovereign nation for its resources, or letting one of your agents kill 500 hostages for the greater good because they were weak in your eyes. But they use these tactics for a reason. In Kaido's case, he tried to hold on to his power by causing worldwide destruction to be eventually killed by someone in the new era, someone like Odin. Greenbull is the opposite side of this coin. Instead of using far-right accelerationism to cause worldwide destruction, he used it because he was afraid. For a joke, I came to the conclusion that in the Greenbull versus Shanks scene, Trump is Greenbull and China is Shanks. It was a very unserious opinion. Like, the concept of Xi Jinping using his 5G Wi-Fi conquerors hockey to hold Trump back from accelerating his far-right plans is literally some shit you can only think about when you're high. I promise you, no sober nigga is thinking like this. But when I seriously thought about it, I realized that I don't have to assign anything to Shanks for this analysis. I mean, y'all can and will in the comments, and then someone is gonna eventually say that this is all me health upscale. But what I'm trying to say is that I don't want to assign anything to Shanks, because the more interesting point is focusing on what Shanks said in the scene. Are you that afraid of the new era? This one question makes the scene so great because obviously it's hyped to see an admiral and an emperor face off, but we also see Shanks strike Greenbull's tactics to its core. He's afraid. Afraid of losing social and political power. Afraid of losing the grip on society that you've kept for 800 years, or in Trump's case, 50 years. And the fear that comes from the threat of losing this power results in a continuation of colonial violence, whether it be the level 5 famine disaster in Gaza or the level 5 famine disaster in Sudan. Speaking of, here are 2 action items. First, Ahmed's family has to live in an unsafe tent in Khan Yunis and is facing extreme repression from apartheid Israel, especially because Israel is finally facing a small percentage of accountability. And as the food situation in Sudan continues to get worse, one of my good friends kickstarted a campaign to raise $50,000 to feed displaced Sudanese families after the devastating shutdown of U.S. aid operations. Donate what you can and if you can to Ahmed's family and displaced Sudanese families. It's very much appreciated. Thank you.
Now go ahead and send me money, yeah! Money, cash.
Bro, they need to put cocaine back in fucking Coca-Cola cans. And hear me out. When Trump tried to deport student activists like Muhammad Khalil and threatened to deport Zoran Mamdani, I think one of the reasons why this occurred is because Trump is afraid of the new era.
And I want to talk about just kind of how you view this heading into the general election now. It's a very unique general election with many players. Who do you see as your real primary challenger going to November?
Donald Trump. You know, in many ways we have a number of different candidates, but 3 of them are Donald Trump's candidates. We have one that he is currently coordinating with in former Governor Andrew Cuomo, another that he's functionally bailed out of legal trouble in Mayor Eric Adams, and then another, Curtis Sliwa, who belongs to the same party as him, the Republican Party. And what we're seeing right now is that our president is currently investigating the option of interfering with this election, always working backwards from how best he could stop our campaign. Mm-hmm. And I understand why he's threatened, because of the fact that while he ran a campaign looking to deliver an easier and a lower cost of living for Americans, he's shown no interest in actually doing so, while we will actually deliver on this agenda.
Just like Greenbull, he tried to utilize state-sanctioned violence to kill their momentum because they know people don't want to be ruled by fear and fascism for their entire lives. If you want to view it this way, the people of America and the people of Wano have more similarities than differences. Both deal with high cost of living, poverty slum areas, a prison industrial complex that engages in slave labor on a regular basis, and in some cases can fundamentally have their bodily autonomy changed for the worse because they were given illegal drugs without their knowledge or consent. I'm not saying that Zoro Mamdani and Muhammad Khalil are akin to Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates who are gonna save the nation. Look at me. That's a really stupid thing to say right now. Like, really dumb. Idiotic, in fact. But what I am saying is that Greenbull went after Luffy and the Straw Hats for a reason. Trump went after these specific individuals for a reason. The threat of deportations and accelerationist tactics proves the threat to power they represent, and people genuinely resonate with this. According to the establishment, the shift towards pro-Palestinian favorability and people's willingness to vote for a socialist have been unprecedented. But honestly, this was inevitable. Like I said before, people don't want to be ruled by fear and fascism for their entire lives. And when you're offering free baby baskets instead of gutting Medicare, you can see why Trump would see public support for this as a threat to his power. And trust me, these things I'm discussing aren't the most radical things in the world. Like, Zoran's policies are not going to bring about another Bolshevik revolution that'll see an end to Dubai chocolate matcha, 24-karat golden Labubu consumerism. Actually, let me clarify. I wish it would, but it won't. So when this eventually happens again with another politician, student activist, or community organizer, now you have something to connect it to. These far-right idiots and fascists don't ramp up far-right accelerationist policies and the constant threat of deportations for no reason. Because just like Greenbull, Trump is afraid of the new era. Now, let's clarify some things. Listen, the goal of these videos aren't to claim that Luffy is a Marxist-Leninist and Oda is somehow a Trotskyite anarchist. Let's get real. I watched 1,000+ episodes of One Piece and read hundreds of chapters for the manga. I love One Piece and think it's ripe for political analysis, but I don't think the series or its author is above critique. In fact, there are many things you can critique Oda for, and I plan to talk about the wild age gap between Luffy and Boa Hancock, how Oda draws women, how Oda draws underage girls, and Oda's relationship with Nobuhiro Watatsuki in the context of the manga industry at large. Because there's something that needs to be said about an industry that lets a convicted pedophile work in said industry post-conviction. All this to say, the real goal of One Piece and political literacy, this video, and other One Piece analysis videos I'll make, is to make political connections through One Piece to create more empowered subjects. That was the thesis for the first video, and it'll continue to be that way for each upload in this series of One Piece analysis videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.